Northampton Saints are a professional rugby union club from Northampton, England. They were formed in 1880 and play in black, green, and gold colours. The team play the home games at Franklin's Gardens, which has a capacity of 15,500. The biggest rivals are Leicester Tigers. The East Midlands Derby is one of the fiercest rivalries in English rugby union. The club has won the English Premiership, the RFU Championship 3 times, the Anglo-Welsh Cup, the EDF Energy Trophy, the European Rugby Champions Cup, and are twice winners of the European Rugby Challenge Cup. History. Early years. The club was established in 1880 under the original title of Northampton Street. James by Rev. Samuel Wathenwig, a local clergyman and curate of St. James Church, who was a resident of the nearby village of Milton Malsa in the house known as Mortimer's. This is how the club got its 2 nicknames of the Saints and Jimmy's. His original concept was to promote order to his younger parish members by creating a youth rugby club, with the philosophy of a hooligan sport designed to turn them into gentlemen. It was not long before Northampton had one of the major rugby union teams in the country. 20 years after its establishment, the first Saints player, local farmer Harry Weston, was awarded an England cap. As the club progressed through the early years of the 20th century, one player dominated this era for the club: Edgar Marbs. Edgar was a hero throughout the town. He was the first Northampton player to captain his country, but is best remembered for his exploits in World War I. After initially being turned down as too old, Edgar raised his own sportsman's battalion, otherwise known as Marb's Own. Edgar was killed in battle, leading his battalion over the top by kicking a rugby ball into no man's land on the 29th of July 1917, attacking a machine gun post, and his body was never found. The club arranged the Marbs Memorial match as a tribute. It had been played every year since 1921, and the fixture took place between the Barbarians and East Midlands at Franklin's Gardens until the Barbarians withdrew the support in 2008. The match was saved by the efforts of former Northampton player Bob Taylor and former Northampton chairman Keith Burwell, and since 2012 it has been played alternately at Bedford Blues Goldington Road Ground and Franklin's Gardens, with the host club facing the British Army team. In this post-war period, the Saints continued to grow, and they started to produce some of the best players in England, some of whom went on to captain the country. They were one of the driving forces in the English game for the next 60 years, producing players such as Butterfield, Jeeps, Longland, White and Jacobs, but hard times were ahead. The club failed to keep pace with movements within the game, and top players were no longer attracted to the Gardens, where a them-and-yous mentality had built up between the players and those in charge of the club. Some former players formed their own task force which swept out the old brigade in the 1988 Saints Revolution and put a plan into action which would put the club back at the top of the English game. Barry Corliss, as director of rugby, set about restructuring the club, and soon the Saints were back on the way up, helped by the signing of All Blacks legend Wayne "Buck" Shelford. In 1990, Northampton Rugby Union Football Club gained promotion to the then First Division, and the following year made the first trip to Twickenham to play Quins in the Pilkington Cup final. They lost in extra time, but the foundations of a good Saints line-up were beginning to show in the following few seasons. Tim Rodber and Ian Hunter forced the way into the England setup, while younger players such as Paul Grayson, Matt Dawson and Nick Beale came through the ranks and would follow the duo into the England senior team. In 1994, Ian McGeechan took over as director of rugby, and although the club were relegated in his first season, they returned in style the next season, winning every every single game of the campaign and averaging 50 points a game. This season is referred to by many fans of the club as the demolition tour of Division Two. Professional era. In 1995, rugby union turned professional and the club was taken over by local businessman Keith Burwell. In 1999, Saints came runners-up in the Allied Dunbar Premiership, a league campaign climaxing with a crucial home local derby with eventual winners Leicester Tigers, which they lost 15-22. Ian McGeechan had left the club at the end of the previous season to return to coach Scotland, and was replaced by former Saints player John Steele, who had done well on a limited budget at London Scottish. Steele relied on the foundations laid by McGeechan, as well as the inspirational captaincy of Samoan Pat Lam to lead the club to European success the following season. In 1999-2000, the club became a public limited company and shares were issued to the public. In this season the Saints lost in the Tetley's Bitter Cup final to Wasps, but beat Munster 9-8 in the European Cup final to win the first major trophy. After a poor start to the 2001-2002 season, a former All Black coach Wayne Smith was appointed as head coach. He went on to transform the club in 5 short months. A team who looked down and out in November were moulded into a side that reached the Pagan Cup final and again qualified for the Heineken Cup. Travis Perkins became the club's main sponsor in 2001. In recent times, the club narrowly survived relegation from the Premiership after the then coach was sacked in the middle of the 2004-05 season. The coaching role was passed on to the former first-team mates Budge Pountney and Paul Grayson to tide the team over. They had a slow start in the 2005-06 season, but continued to stay mainly unbeaten after the new year. Budge retired at the start of the 2006-07 season, leaving Grayson in overall control. The Saints would again compete in the 2006-07 Heineken Cup. They finished second in the pool, behind Biarritz Olympique, the runners-up from the previous season. Northampton qualified for the quarter-finals and actually met Biarritz in Spain. Despite being in last place of the English League at the time, they defeated the French champions 7-6 to advance to the semi-finals. Relegation. On the 28th of April 2007, despite a 27-22 victory over London Irish at Franklin's Gardens, Northampton were relegated from the English Premiership. A behind-the-scenes restructure led to the brief appointment of Peter Sloane as head coach. For the role of forwards coach, Paul Grayson became the skills and backs coach. England Saxons coach Jim Malinder became the new head coach and director of rugby, with his assistant Dorian West also following as assistant coach. Peter Sloane has since left the club. On the 22nd of March 2008, Northampton beat Exeter Chiefs to ensure the promotion and a return to the Guinness Premiership. On the 12th of April 2008, Northampton beat Exeter Chiefs 24-13 at Twickenham Stadium to win the EDF Energy Trophy. On the 26th of April 2008, they ended the National Division 1 season undefeated with 30 wins from 30 games. Return to Premiership. In the 2008-09 season, the Saints finished 8th on the table and only losing one game at home to Newcastle Falcons. They also lifted the European Challenge Cup, defeating French side Burgoyne 15-3 in the final on the 22nd of May 2009 at the Stoop in London. The victory gave them a place in the 2009-10 Heineken Cup. In March 20 2010, the Saints won the Anglo-Welsh Cup final against Gloucester 30-24, gaining them the fourth piece of silverware in 3 years, and a place in the following season's Heineken Cup. They also finished second in the English Premiership, losing to Saracens 19-21 in the semi-final played at Franklin's Gardens, and progressed as far as the quarter-finals of the Heineken Cup, losing to Munster at Thomond Park, Limerick. Northampton finished fourth in the 2010-11 English Premiership, losing to Leicester in the semi-final. Saints also went undefeated into the final of the Heineken Cup, where they were beaten by Leinster 33-22 at the Millennium Stadium. At the beginning of the 2011-12 season, with 9 players out for the 2011 Rugby World Cup in New Zealand, Saints were knocked out of the 2011-12 Heineken Cup in Stadium MK by Munster. When the international players returned, Saints began to move up the table. England picked 8 Saints players out of a squad of 32 to represent England, meaning that over a quarter of the England team were Saints, a new club record for the number of players selected for a single England squad. In 2011-12, the Saints reached a third successive Premiership semi-final and a second Anglo-Welsh Cup final in 3 seasons. After winning the first 5 matches of 2012-13, the Saints were pulled back into the pack in the Premiership and exited both the Anglo-Welsh and Heineken Cups, despite ending Ulster's 4-year unbeaten home European record just before Christmas 2012. The team finished fourth in the league, and after beating Saracens in the semi-final reached the first-ever Premiership final, where they lost 37-17 to Leicester. The 2013 season finished with 7 players being taken to Argentina as part of the England squad, including Tom Wood as captain. Northampton finished the 2013-14 season second in the league with 78 points. They reached the final of the 2013-14 European Challenge Cup, which they won by beating Bath 16-30. Saints then beat Saracens 20-24 in the final to win the 2013-14 English Premiership. Stadium: Franklin's Gardens. Northampton Saints have played at Franklin's Gardens since 1880, when the club was born. Franklin's Gardens is a purpose-built rugby stadium near the town centre. It is about 1,250 metres from the railway station and about 2,000 metres from the bus station. The stadium holds approximately 15,500 people. The stadium also has 40 corporate boxes. Each can hold from 8 to 24 people. The 4 stands are Tetley's Stand, Burder South Stand, Church's Stand, and the new Barwell Stand. It is also a multifunctional conference centre as well as the only Aviva Premiership ground with its own cenotaph. In 2009, the Saints board announced they would be applying to increase capacity to 17,000 with the redevelopment of the North Stand. It was intended this would be funded by a £40 million investment by supermarket chain Asda, who would build a new store on the land currently used as training pitches. A political battle ensued with the local council, which later came to be seen as an attempt by the board to wrest public funding and public land for the commercial objectives. The club has since secured funding through alternate means, a loan thought to be in the region of £5 million through Northampton Borough Council, and with planning permission rubber stamp. Building will commence in the summer of 2015. The stand, which will take the name of the Barwell family, is due to be completed in time for the start of the 2015-16 season and will take the capacity at Franklin's Gardens up to 15,500. Northampton Saints had an unbeaten home record that stretched from March 2007 to March 2009. Much of this record was set during the Saints' 2007-08 promotion from the RFU Championship. During the 2008-09 English Premiership regular season, the Saints only lost at Franklin's Gardens on one occasion, to the Newcastle Falcons. The average attendance at the Gardens in the 2014-15 season is 13,428. The club's Barwell stand was finished in October 2015 and debuted against Saracens on the 7th of November 2015. Heineken Cup matches. The club played a 2011 Heineken Cup quarter-final match against Ulster at Stadium MK in Milton Keynes, because Franklin's Gardens is too small to meet the minimum 15,000 seats demanded by the European Rugby Cup tournament organisers. The Saints won the match, beating Ulster 23-13, before a crowd of over 21,000. Kits. In 2008, after being promoted from the Championship to the Premiership, Saints changed from Cougar to Rhino. After 2 years with Rhino and coming second in the table, Saints switched again to BURDA, a Swiss sports apparel company. Northampton have signed a 4-year deal with BURDA, which have brought back the old-fashioned ring but with a modern twist for the home shirt and the away shirt, with its black and gold ring with a peppermint light green background. In the 2014-15 season, BURDA released a kit with vertical green, black and gold stripes of the same size. It was one of the most popular kit releases of Saints history. From the start of the 2016-17 season, Macron will be Saints kit supplier, signing a 10-year deal with the club. Current kit. The kit is supplied by Burda Sport. On the front of the shirt, Travis Perkins is at the center, while Elite Insurance Company appears on the top left, while StubHub appears on the left and right of the collar. Hankook appears on the left sleeve. On the back of the shirt, Kubota appears at the top, while GRS appears on top of the squad number, while the University of Northampton appears on the bottom. Rivalries. Saints' main rivals are Leicester Tigers, whom they face in the East Midlands Derby. Over a number of recent years, the Saints have developed a rivalry with Saracens. Current squad. 2016-17 Note. Flags indicate national union as has been defined under WR eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-WR nationality. Academy squad. Note: flags indicate national union as has been defined under WR eligibility rules. Players may hold more than one non-WR nationality. Coaching staff. First team: Jim Malinder, Director of Rugby. Dorian West, Forwards Coach. Alex King, Attack Skills, Kicking Coach. Alan Dickens, Assistant Coach. Academy: Alan Dickens, Academy Manager. Dusty Hare, Academy Recruitment and Development Manager. Mark Hopley, Academy Coach. Ross Stewart, Elite Player Development Group Manager. Notable former players. Hall of Fame. The history of Northampton Saints is one filled with illustrious names. To recognize and honor its best players, the club established its Hall of Fame in 2004. Today 12 players have been inducted. Captains. Club honors. Aviva Premiership 2013-14. RFU Championship 1989-90, 1995-96, 2007-08. Anglo-Welsh Cup 2009-10, EDF Energy Trophy 2007-08. Heineken Cup 1999-2000. European Challenge Cup 2008-09, 2013-14. Guinness A-League 2008-09, Middlesex 7s 2002-03. Statistics. Overall stats: most points in a match 96, most tries in a match 14, most conversions in a match 13, most penalty goals in a match 7, most drop goals in a match 2.